Hey all, Heretic here. Today in the Battlegrounds, we're going to be talking about Spell Murloc Hand Buffing and how we can put this together, what minions we need, and what this kind of board really looks like to make it functional. Special thanks to Jakirik. He submitted this footage for this, and I really enjoy this particular build and what he put together. So sprinkled throughout the video, the highlights you see are from his channel. Now he doesn't have a YouTube channel, but he does use Twitch. So if you'd like to take a look, see how he's playing, he's always a top end player. So Jakirik is always a fun watch. And I just enjoy his flair for the dramatic. You'd have to see it to understand. That being said, thank you very much, Jakirik. And with that, let's jump right into it. So we know what this build is, but how do we know we're playing it? Well, typically, that's going to be when you find realistically any two pieces of this build. Now you can start leaning into it, but definitely don't overcommit if you're offered something else that's a full win condition. But the first thing you're going to be looking for and find typically is going to be a Gormling Gourmet. It works in a number of builds. It's just a good early minion anyways. The Gormling Gourmet has Taunt, but it also has Battle Cry and Death Rattle, get a seafood stew. Now this is basically the crux of this build, so it being at tier 4 makes it a little easier to want to do this. Seafood Stew is give a minion +1/+1 repeat for each different bonus keyword in your warband. Now, the key there is different. So if you have 7 of the same ones, a Divine Shield, you're only going to get 1 buff. But if you have all the different bonus keywords, well, you repeat 7 times. Now, remember, we're going to be buffing that later, so that can get quite big. But what is a bonus keyword? In this case, it's constituted by a Divine Shield, Reborn, Stealth, Taunt, Venomous, and Wind Fury. These are what make up that. As long as you have these, you'll get those extra stacks and triggers of it. So it's very important that you want to have those in play. So the other things we need to do, it's typically a Murloc board, right? Since we called it a Murloc Hand Buffing board with spells, that means we want a Brand, because Brand just works in a Murloc board anyways. He gives a ton of value through the many battle cries you're going to have to deal with, so you definitely want Brand. Obviously, if you're playing in an option where you're given a chance to take a Moira, that will work better because your Gormling Gourmet will give the battle cry when you play it, and the death rattle when it dies in combat, giving you those extra triggers, plus all the other various Murloc-y things you're going to do while playing. So definitely Moira works also, but 9 out of 10 times you're going to be using Brand. After that, another very important piece of this build is going to be the murk-eye Expeditioner. Now that is Taunt Divine Shield, but whenever it gains stats, it also gives the leftmost minion in your hand those stats. So it gets them, and whatever is in your hand is getting them. So once you've got the Gormling Gourmets going and dying, you're going to be putting all of those buffs on the murk-eye, which is then in turn going to buff whatever is in your hand, also giving you a double dip of those stats, which is a really big board eventually if it keeps going on. And a great add-on for your murk-eye Expeditioner is going to be Tricky Trousers. The reason for that is easy. You're going to put a ton of buffs on your murk-eye, so make sure you put some Tricky Trousers on that murk-eye so he doesn't get hit by an early Leroy or just another Venom or some other giant statted minion that can actually deal with the murk-eye. Make sure this thing can survive by not getting hit early by just removing Taunt. Alternatively, you can just taunt everything on your damn board so you don't have to worry about it, but it's not the most efficient. Be a lot better if you could just spend the 1 gold, get rid of Taunt on the murk-eye, and have a good time. So you definitely want to have murk-eye as the next piece of this build, and basically once you've seen these 3 pieces, you know you're pretty much there until we come to the last main piece, and that is going to be a Sholfin Mystic. Now, Sholfin Mystic is important because it's got a battle cry that says your tavern spells that give stats grant an extra +1/+1 this game. Well, Bran is going to make that trigger twice. And then, hey, look at that. Now all of your spells are giving a little bit more stats. Well, your Seafood Stew is a 1/1 buff, but it repeats for every bonus keyword. And then if you've played a few of these, that can get to be a very, very high buff that you're giving to this murk-eye, who's then in turn giving it to whatever in your hand. If you triple the murk-eye, it's given double those stats to whatever in your hand. So it gets really nutty really fast. Now the Sholfins, you want to do one of 2 things. One, cycle as many as you possibly can, or two, if you can get a young murk-eye to sit next to it, especially in the earlier portion of the game. When you're in a top 3 position, top 2 position, it's time you let the Shoalfin and the young murk-eye go typically. Sometimes you're so far ahead, you don't care, have fun, go nuts. But when you're not, you want to cut those top 3 positions and start putting in your more tech cards to actually win you the combat. But young murk-eye is going to make it so you actually just straight up can win the fight in the long term. It's going to give you that little extra boost. The one note to be careful of young murk-eye is he triggers the battle cry adjacent, but an battle cry adjacent. He only triggers both when he's gold. So make sure it's only next to the Shoalfin Mystic. Otherwise, if there's another battle cry next to it, it's going to be a coin flip on which one you actually activate. So don't accidentally trigger a battle cry you don't care about. Get that Shoalfin to go off. Because if you put it between the Gormling and the Shoalfin, okay, yeah, you got an extra trigger of the seafood stew. Oh, you're going to get an extra one because of Bran. Great. But at the same time, you lost permanent scaling. So you really got to weigh which one you want to activate. Could you keep the young murk-eye on your board? Yes. Typically, though, especially if I start generating multiple of these, this is what I like to use for a cycle slot, and I'll just swap out the young murk-eye. Yeah, if you're in a good enough position, if you can golden the young murk-eye and you've got another cycle slot, go nuts. But the issue with Murlocs typically is you have so many damn cards you want on your board, it's hard to figure out when you should cut them. So definitely don't be afraid to cut young murk-eye. He's not going to be there at the end. The Shoalfin will be there for a while, but it's probably going to get cut before the end of the game unless you die early. So we've got the main pieces of the board, but what pieces are going to help us win? Because we're talking about a lot of buffing, but not who is going to be buffed other than the Murk-Brine, which is great. But if he's still got taunt, he's definitely got a bullseye on his forehead. So we're looking for things like, in the early game, Flighty Scout. If you have a Flighty Scout and you've managed to golden it, it's getting double stats. If you got a Murk-Brine that's buffing it, now it's getting more stats. It gets out of control really, really fast. Flighty Scout's probably one of my absolute favorites. Then we'll be looking for a Baskill. The reason for Baskill is easy. Obviously, you're going to leave an open slot on your board for the Flighty Scout to pop into at the beginning of your turn. But if you also have a Baskill, and when that Baskill dies, they will summon out the Flighty Scout, assuming it's your largest health minion in your hand, even though you've already got a copy on the board. When it spawns a copy of itself out, it doesn't actually use up the minion in your hand. So then your Baskill can summon it out when they die. So you definitely want a Baskill and a Flighty Scout. So when that Murk-Brine gets buffed, and then it buffs the Flighty Scout, you're basically getting 2 minions for the price of 1. It's just a lot of efficiency in this build. It's kind of insane that it's even allowed to exist, I feel. Because when it works, it's just so damn good. Operatic Belcher obviously is a great fit for this also. Say you don't have the Flighty Scout, you've got a ton of Murlocs, you've got a Baskill, throw a Belcher in your hand. Buff the hell out of the Belcher with the Murk-Brine, then have that Belcher get popped out and say, hey, even if you do kill me, I'm just going to give one of these other Murlocs Venom, so good luck. Definitely an efficient way to do it. Finally, Bream Counter. If you're not in a heavy Venom lobby, if there's no Venom, that's weird because you're Murlocs. How is there no Venom? But if nobody else is playing Murlocs, and you just happen to notice that and you find enough Bream Counters, go with a massive stat build. Just have all the stats, cycle all the Murlocs in addition to doing the spell stuff, and you've just got a good old-fashioned hand buff Murloc board that, while it's using spells, is just very content cycling Murlocs in addition to that. Which, hey, this will definitely work. If no one else wants to play Murlocs or Scam, go nuts. At the higher MMR, you're going to see tons of Scam. But at low MMR, you're sitting there at 6, 5, 3K, hell, 8K a lot of the times. Nobody bothers. They just kind of do what they're doing, and they're oblivious to what's going on. Have fun. Stack stats to the moon if no one's rolling Murlocs. Kick their ass, take the first. That being said, if nobody's running a whole lot of Venom, take a Coral. Put that Coral down, take advantage of all those stats you've added to your hand by buffing that Murk-Brine, who then buffs what's in your hand, and then let the Coral take advantage of all those stats also. Just put them in a giant pile, sit it in back, and enjoy as it swings out, and hopefully by the time it swings, all the venom's eaten up, all the Leroys are gone, and you're just sitting there stomping with your Godzilla-sized coral murgler. It just works. Finally, there's 2 minions. You can have either, you can have both, but you're going to need to get the maximum value out of this build. And that is going to be a Bubble Gunner, who is probably gold, due to the brand, has basically every keyword. That way your seafood stew gets the full benefit, or an Apprentice of Sephin. Gold or otherwise, eventually will have basically every single thing it could have for a bonus keyword, and then you're getting the full benefits on your seafood stew. Both of these, one of these, have them going so you can get the full benefit, because if you don't, there's not much point to having the seafood stew. You can buff it a whole lot, but if it doesn't repeat itself every possible time, you're really not getting the full value out of it. So definitely make sure you're going for one of these. If you've already got a golden bubble gunner, you're all good. Otherwise, take that Sephin as early as you can, let it start stacking up those things, and then let the seafood stew get you the win. Now, the trinkets that will help. Which ones do we want? I'm only going to cover the Murloc specific ones I like and I have seen used. That being said, there are tons of neutral ones which obviously will work. There's so many combinations. So with that in mind, just looking at Murloc trinkets, Finley's helmet is probably going to be right off the top of my head. It's going to throw stats on Murlocs in the shop. It's going to throw bonus keywords, which yes, some of them could be bad combinations. Most will be quite good. Just buyer beware when you're grabbing them. Make sure it doesn't have the worst possible combination, just in case. You don't want taunt on certain ones, but then again, late in the game, sometimes that's even good. So just take a look, be careful what you're buying. Toxic Stinger is another great one because, hey, at the end of each turn, giving a random friendly Murloc +10/+10 and Venom permanently certainly makes them more of a threat. So there you go. Toxic Stinger's very, very good. And finally, Morgul Portrait. What can be said about Morgul? If you're not familiar with Morgul, this is the tier 7, 110 poisonous. That means whenever it kills something, it doesn't lose it like Venomous, which is 1 hit only. It's just stays. But whenever this attacks and kills a minion, it gives its maximum stats to a random minion in your hand. That can include itself. And if you're like, what? I've never heard of this or seen of this or thought of this. If you have a Baskill with a Tide Oracle Morgul in your hand, it summons out the Tide Oracle Morgul. The Tide Oracle Morgul is a 110, but it kills 1,000,000. It now gains 1,000,000 in stats the next turn. It won't retroactively grow what's on the battleground, but what's in your hand does get those stats permanently. If it swings and kills multiple minions, as eventually it will snowball with the correct hits if you're lucky, it will get ridiculous. In tier 7 lobbies, this is the bane of my existence because this damn thing, everyone goes to 7 as fast as they can and they roll for all the Morguls for all they're worth because whoever gets the most typically wins. So yeah, it's Murlocs and tier 7 and just, it's a whole argument in itself. But those are probably the most important minions. I know there's lots of others. There's lots of neutral or other tribe minions. But these are the ones I'm looking at mainly for this build. Now we're going to throw up some board examples here you're going to see of different ways you can build this. It's just a couple different ways you can play them as an option. But overall, we've covered most of the pieces and parts, and you'll find there's lots of unique ways that you're going to do these. And when you look at people's final boards, remember a lot of their final boards are with counter plays in mind for their particular type of opponents. So there's a lot of different ways you can end your final board as that last minute flurry where you're like, okay, oh no, it's an undead board, I need this. Oh no, it's an elemental board, I need that. Oh, it's a mech board, no, now we need this. They're all a little different. So final board states will always look a little different, but you'll start seeing some familiar pieces now in the patterns I've brought to you so you can know what they look like and how to put this build together and get yourself some wins. And that's it. That's Murlocs, that's everything, that's where we're at. I hope I conveyed it well. I hope everything just is flowing again. It's been a little while. I was burned out. I had to change how I was thinking about doing these videos because I really did burn myself out completely. And it was just, I needed to stop thinking about it the way I did to start having fun with it again. It's like, screw trying to grow the channel, screw trying to be better and trying to grow and make money. It's like, just have fun with it. And if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, fuck it. Just have a good time. So that's where I'm back at with this. Now, a few things have happened to me. Other than the burnout, my son graduated high school. I had a microphone die, and a microphone dying for a perfectionist is a nightmare, because then you're trying to get your sound right, and you're tweaking it more, and then you listen to your old sound and you realize that was crap, and then you're not happy with anything. So I'm never going to be happy with how I sound, with how I look because I'm an old man, and all that other happy horse shit. You know how it is. So there's always something distracting me away from it. But I think we're back and good now. I'm going to be sprinkling in non-Hearthstone videos occasionally. I'm going to be doing my live streams on YouTube now too, so you'll see those, because I've been on Twitch for years. Well, now I'm on YouTube too. And because of that, I've lost a ton of subscribers who I'm assuming either were horrified by my gameplay or don't actually play Battlegrounds anymore, and my constant live updates just reminded them they didn't care, so they unsubscribed, which I understand. But all that being said, if you made it through all this, you probably already are, but please like, subscribe, comment. I don't care what your comment is. Well, positive's better, but even if it's just a thumbs up, if it's a, hey, I enjoy this, it all makes a difference. It helps the algorithm. It helps the channel. Thank you very much, all. I love getting to do this. I love the interactions with the live streams, and I just needed to get my head on straight again to get myself in the right place. I always loved live streaming, but it's so much work to make videos that it's hard for me to get going. When I record a video, it's like an hour and a half of footage of me saying something wrong 100 times, finally getting it right, and then all of a sudden I go through the whole video, re-recording, redoing, then I get to the final cut here and I say my final thoughts, and everything just kind of flows out of me and feels pretty good, with only a couple really minor edits compared to the rest of the video. So thank you for putting up with me. I do appreciate it. And hey, I hope you learned a few things. I hope you had a good time, and hopefully I'll see you in the Battlegrounds. Either way, until next time, later.